Welcome to the Retake Qualification video for Defense. You must complete the entire video on Edpuzzle before I will change your grade to your retake. Secondly, before you start this video, I highly recommend that you grab a piece of paper and pencil and take notes. This will help you when you go to take your test, that you can look back at these questions and correct them. We are only going to do the most missed questions. So if there was a question on your test that you missed that I didn't go over, feel free to email me and I will send you a video of how to solve that problem. Here we go. First, I wanted to point out that there was a cheat sheet that you could have used on the concept check. And I know several of you did not use this cheat sheet because some of the examples were the exact same question on the test, yet they were some of the most missed questions. So let's take a look at which questions were exactly the same as the examples. Let's take a look how example 2 is exactly like one of the questions on your test. So example 2 said there are 24 students in a class are boys. If this is 75% of the class, how many students are in the class? The first thing you should think of is, okay, how many students are in the class? Well, there is going to be more than 24 students in the class because 24 are just boys. So I set up the ratio, 24 boys over 75% because that was given to me. I simplified it down to 8 over 25 by dividing by 3, and then I brought it back up to 100% because the entire class would be 100%. So that would be times 4, and 8 times 4 is 32. This question is exactly the same as the last question. In Ms. Perrin's class, 75% of the students are boys. There are 18 boys. So I have 18 boys is the same as 75%. What is the total number of students in Ms. Perrin's class? Well, first off, you should know that it has to be more than 18. Some of you are doing 18 divided by 75% or 18 times 75%. That's not going to get you the right answer. You need to set up these ratios. You need to go down to 25%, just like I did on the example problem. To get from 75 to 25 is divided by 3. So I need to do 18 divided by 3, which is 6. And then to get 100% of the class, to get from 25 to 100, that's times 4. So that means I need to do 6 times 4, which is 24. So there were 24 total students in the class. Example 3 was exactly like the one on your test as well, and I went over this problem in the video yesterday. The original price of golf clubs is $156, but it is on sale for 25% off. How much money is taken off the original price? All you had to do was find that 25%. How do you go from 100% down to 25? Dividing by 4. So you would do the same thing to 156 by dividing by 4. Now let's take a look at the question on your concept check. The original price of a golf club is $168, but it is on sale for 25% off. How much money is taken off the original price? In other words, how much is the discount? So this is exactly the same word for word, except for I changed 156 to 168. So you set it up the same way. 168 would be 100% of the cost. You are trying to find what 25% of the cost is. So we would need to do 100% divided by 4 to get 25%. So that means I have to do the same thing to 168. So if we pop open our Desmos calculator, we would just type in our 168, divide that by 4, and it is 42. Whoops. So that would be $42 is how much would be taken off the price. Convert 2 hundredths into a percent and type your result in the empty box. If you typed it wrong, I did go back and correct your answer. Gave you points if it was correct, but some of us are writing 20%. Okay, if we read this, we have to know our place values for decimals. If you do not know your place value for decimal, you really need to work on them. This is your tenths place. This is the hundredths place. So that means that 2 is 2 hundredths, which if I have 2 out of 100, that is 2%. Anna ate dinner at a restaurant. The bill came to $68. If she left a 20% tip, how much was the tip? This was your practice last week. We did so many tip questions. $68 is 100% of the bill. You are trying to leave a 20% tip. So to go from 100% down to 20%, I would divide by 5. So that means I would need to do the same thing for 68 divided by 5. So we're going to type in 68 divided by 5, and I get 13.6. Okay, so here is where some of us are making the mistake. 13.6 is $13.60. Okay, it is not $13.06. I want you to see the difference. You cannot move that 6. It has to be right beside the decimal. When you put a 0 in between, you are totally changing the amount. You cannot do that. It always goes at the end. So this is a no. Do not do this. Stop doing this, please. So this problem was actually the exact same problem, just a different number than what was on your check-in on Wednesday. Sam buys a tent priced at $50. If the sales tax is 5%, how much tax will Sam pay? A lot of you are still doing 50 divided by 5. That is not how we do these problems. You set up your ratio. $50 is 100% of the cost. You have to find 5%. To go from 100% down to 5%, I divide by 20. If you don't know what's happening, use your calculator and do 100 divided by 5, and it would give you 20, which means they're doing 100 divided by 20 to get 5. So that means I need to do 50 divided by 20. So if I take 50 in our calculator, divide it by 20, 20, there we go. It is 2 5/10. So then, once again, with those decimals for money, you have to add that 0 to the end. So this would be $2.50. Okay, this next question, what is 5% of 20? Well, we know that 20 is not the 5% because we're trying to find the 5%. So the 20 represents 100%. So to get from 100% down to 5%, you are going to divide by 20. So 20 divided by 20 is 1. So the answer for this was just 1. A volleyball team won 90% of the 80 games they played. How many games did they win? So they're saying they played 80 games. So their 80 games is 100% of the games. But they only won 90%. So the struggle is I can't go straight from 100% to 90%. So what we need to do is figure out what would 10% be. Well, to go from 100% down to 10%, we would divide by 10. So then I would take 80, divide by 10, which gives me 8. So then now I can do 10 times 9 is 90%. So 8 times 9 is 72. Another way you could have worked this problem, because it was a multiple choice problem, is you could have actually taken all your answer choices and written them as fractions and put them into your calculator to figure out what percent you would get. Okay, convert 245 thousandths into a percent and choose the appropriate result. So what you should be thinking is that if it was just this, without the 5 at the end, that is 24%. So if it is 245 thousandths, the difference is it would be 24.5%. Or just like I told you on one of your videos, to find the percent, you would multiply the decimal by 100. So you could do 245 times 100, and that would give you the 24.5%. Okay, on the last question, on a 120 question test, a student got 96 correct answers. what percent of the problems did the student get correct? So the first thing you should think is, what is my ratio? It's 96 out of 120. Next thing I would have done was get the calculator. So in your calculator, you would type your fraction. Oops, not 100, sorry, 120. So 96 out of 120, which you can see is 8/10. What you need to do then, because we're trying to get the percent, is multiply it. Whoops. Hit enter. Take your 8/10 and multiply it by 100, because 100 represents percent. That would be 80%. So what we learned is that when we did this, it changed to this, which we know is, we can also write as this, which multiply that by 100 is 80%. You have now finished the video. Hopefully you took notes and that you are ready to go take the retake. Good luck.